Welcome back to another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Today, I'm joined by a special guest. His name is Dennis Demori. He's a prolific personality on Twitter. He's got a newsletter, a YouTube channel. So he's a guy that's out there, really interesting to watch, another sort of freelancer entrepreneur. I think we're going to have a great discussion today. Dennis, how's it going, man?
Going well.
So, how would you describe yourself to the people? Email marketer, consultant? Tell us.
Yeah, man. I'm one of those guys who has a bunch of stuff in his title now because I'm not doing just one thing. So uh, I'm an email marketer for my clients. I'm also a mentor and coach for my students, and I also create my own info products. So I'm doing a few different things.
That's awesome. And that must be a lot of work because you're maintaining things across a lot of different platforms. Definitely takes a lot of drive to keep doing it every day and to be able to task switch as well and to move from, you know, different types of content creation and things like that. How do you manage to do it all?
Yeah, it's not too bad because I've been doing this for a few years now. I started freelancing online in early 2017,
Hmm.
actually a little bit before that. So it's been about 5.5 years now. And as far as getting things done, though, I just try to batch everything I do. So on Monday, it might be more content creation and planning. On Thursdays, like today, it'll be podcasts like we're doing, or um, talking to students, or client calls. I try to batch things together, and that
Hmm.
makes it a lot easier.
Hmm. That's awesome, man. So why don't you give us a little bit of your background, sort of, share what you want, but just sort of how you maybe got started, where you grew up, how you got started. I'm guessing maybe in the corporate world, and then decided to branch out into more entrepreneurial activities. So love to hear about that.
Yeah. So let's see. Um, I did the 9 to 5 for about 12, 15 years. So I'd worked in finance, I worked in the mortgage business, and then I worked in advertising. And I always wanted to run my own business, but I just didn't know uh, what to do. Uh, so I started freelancing. I think it was maybe 2015 or 16 for some ad agencies, and uh, kind of flipped the switch in my head because I was like, this is way better than uh, having to uh, be in the office all the time, or just being committed to a company all the time. So I really like the flexibility. And then I got into some web design and content writing and finally copywriting, and kind of like found my calling. So I'd always liked marketing, I liked writing, and it seemed like a good fit for my skills. So that was like early 2017 that I went all in, and I've been doing this stuff ever since. But one of the big motivators for me was being able to travel and being
Hmm.
able to set my own schedule, not having to go to the office, not having to commute, not having a boss, and do those types of things, or dealing with office politics. I really hated all that stuff. So I just wanted to have more flexibility and freedom and options in my life and my lifestyle, and I wanted to build my life the way I wanted it to be, instead of being kind of uh, trapped in one way of living. And so that was a big, big driver for me. And I finally got to do it um, around, well, things started to come together. I think it was early 2018 when I booked a one-way flight to Mexico City. And um, that was the beginning of about 2 years of traveling and living abroad while I was working and growing my business. And that was like uh, a huge personal win because it's something I wanted to do for the longest time. And it never would have been possible if I was still working in an office like I did for many, many years.
Hmm. So how long did you have that dream to travel and work remote prior to, packing a bag and booking a flight?
I don't know. I'd always liked the idea of travel and the idea of exploring since I was a little kid. Like I remember we had a big map in the hallway of uh, my home, my parents' home when I was a kid, and I would look at that map and like see all the countries around the globe and look at the cities and think about how cool it would be to go there and be able to visit and see what it was like. And I don't know when I got the idea in my head, but at some point I found out about business travel. So for a long time, I was like, oh, that would be really cool if I could travel for business. Like I had a friend who was a medical device salesman. He was always traveling from one hospital to another, so he was on the road, and I like
Hmm.
that idea. And I did a little bit of that with some like in the mortgage business, which was like late 2000s. Um, but then I found out about people like flying for business, and I thought that was like the coolest thing.
And
And
how you
eventually,
can maybe expense the flights.
yeah, that type of thing. So eventually, I did that. I did that for a couple years, and I realized it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be because it would be like coast to coast trips, but I'd only be in the city for like 2 days. Sometimes I have to go, and sometimes I go to cool places like New York City where there's a lot of things to do and see. Other times, not so much. And I realized that I just that type of travel was not everything was I thought it was cracked up to be because you were still working or it still had to
Hmm.
be available for work. So it was closer to what I wanted to be doing, but it was still not what I was looking for. And when I got into freelancing online, then I could see uh, other people doing it, and I heard about digital nomads and expats and working online, all that stuff, and uh, I knew that that was what was going to allow me to do that.
Yeah, I think I actually had a similar journey, and I found the tweets I had in mind. Uh, I had tweeted, if you can figure out remote work now, you can live location independent for the rest of your life. And then you retweeted that and you said, thanks to remote work, I was able to live in and visit over 20 cities on 4 continents in 2 years. Never would have happened if I was chained to a desk.
Yeah, true.
So that's good. You 4 continents, 20 plus cities. What were some of the spots you hit?
Well, the first one was Mexico City. So I was there for about, I think about 6 or 7 months on and off. And then I visited about another uh, 10 or 11 towns and cities all over Mexico. Uh, and then I went further south to Colombia and Argentina, then Europe, and then Asia. But looking back, I would say that Singapore, Prague, and Vienna were some of the best places I visited.
Okay. And so how do you think about like Latin America versus Eastern Europe, Europe in general? Um, if you're based up in Phoenix, Arizona, like there's direct flights probably to 10 plus different cities in Mexico. Other Latin American flights are super, super easy. You're in a good spot for that.
Yeah, I'm in Arizona, and I this is a tough question to answer because a lot of guys will ask you like, "Oh, what's the best place to go, or where should I go?" And it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what you like. I don't know what you don't like. So that's an impossible recommendation, especially with so many places in the world where you could go. But uh, I think definitely different regions will attract different types of people. Like the guy that really likes living in Eastern Europe, uh, like Ukraine, not now. with the war situation. But before, the guy who's into that is probably not the same guy who's into living in uh, Medellin. Like they're very different, right? And the guy who likes uh, I don't know, Mexico City might not really jive with Bali.
Hmm.
So the only way to know that is to really know yourself and to also just get out there and book some flights and see what they're like. Because, I don't know about other people. I watch a lot of these YouTube videos of other people traveling and I look at where they go. And it's one thing to see it online, but it's totally different when you're there. Like I'd watch stuff about Vietnam before going there. And then after spending a month in Vietnam, my view of it's totally different.
Hmm.
So, um, I think at least for Western guys, I think that Latin America is good because of similar time zones. Also, Spanish is fairly easy to learn versus learning like Russian or Vietnamese. Like those are way harder. So uh, Latin is a good like kind of jumping off point for people to kind of dip their toes into it, and that's one of the reasons I went to Mexico first because um, I was already like familiar with Mexican culture, already spoke some Spanish, so it wasn't that much of a culture shock for me.
Hmm.
Uh, so that's a great place for a lot of people to start. But like if you're already in Europe somewhere, then maybe someplace like Prague or maybe or somewhere like I don't know, Estonia might be a better fit for you. So it's gonna it depends.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And then so, you started in Mexico City, and I think one of the things that, makes sense about Mexico as a first destination is you can go home like very easily. Like it's so non-committal for people. Like I really try to tell people like you don't have to, it's not 4 months or nothing. You can just go for a couple weeks, get the feel for it, see what's going on. Lots of people just sort of like pop in, pop home, stuff like that. So Dennis, I had a question for you. Like, so in addition to Mexico City, did you have any other favorite spots in Mexico that you visited?
Yeah, I where was it? Guadalajara is all right. Um, I like San Miguel de Allende, even though it is kind of touristy. Still, it's very pretty. It's really nice. It's a cool place to go check out. Cool architecture. Guanajuato also, it's pretty close to San Miguel, so you might as well go see it. And that's interesting in a different way because that's more of a college town. So those are cool. I would also recommend Oaxaca. I really like Oaxaca City. So that's a great city to explore. They also have a great restaurant scene there, and like you can get good food in pretty much any major city, right, around the world. But Oaxaca's got kind of its own thing going on. So those are my favorites. Those are the ones that I would definitely try to check out. Mexico City, San Miguel, Guanajuato. I know a lot of guys like Guadalajara because the girls and all that, but I don't think there is as much to do in Guadalajara. Plus, it's very spread out.
It
So
is.
you need a car to get around, or just be okay with taking Ubers um, to get around because you got like the main street of Chapultepec, which is okay. It's a little bit like collegey, and I was past that stage.
Hmm.
Um, and then if you go by like I think it's an Anzares or Anzures, which is kind of like the high end uh, spot, and there's a mall over there. That spot is nice, but it's not walkable. So that's a big negative for me. I like being in walkable cities, and that's one of the reasons I like places like Prague or Vienna because you could just walk the entire city for hours and not have to rely on public transportation.
For sure. I mean, I started doing like those sort of like walkability tweets. I I've seen other people it's really popular. Like they'll just be like what do they say? They'll say like whatever political affiliation this is what I am, and then it'll be like a photo of like a streetcar or
Yeah, well,
something.
it's like it's super important, and it's not something like I don't think Americans get it, uh, and people that don't travel a lot, I don't think they get it. But once you've lived in a walkable city, it really makes you think about that differently. And I uh, I don't like having to rely on a car to get around, and I don't like having to drive everywhere. Like it sucks because it's I enjoy driving, but it's also kind of a waste of time. And it's so nice to live in a neighborhood like Condesa in Mexico City and just be able to walk to wherever you want to go. Um, Also, way healthier, right? I mean, it's kind of insane. Like back home in the U.S., it's so hard to get 10,000 steps in a day. But anywhere else I was abroad, from Colombia um, to Kiev, I mean, everywhere I went, I was easily doing 15, 20, 25,000 steps every day. Uh, in Bangkok, I was doing like 30, 35,000 a day, which is a lot, but it's just so much easier. And in the US, unless you're somewhere like New York City, um, it's almost impossible.
No, for
So
sure. I think walkability is absolutely huge, and it's a big part of I think one of the reason digital nomads expenses are so much lower than people back home is that we don't have cars and all these like car related expenses like parking and things like that, maintenance, gas. And so your expenses are just way lower because in Latin America or in Europe you just don't need a car at all. And I enjoy living in cities that are walkable. So even in the States, you know, I like Miami Beach, I like Boston, New York, San Francisco, places where, you know, I still don't need a car. But you could easily, I think, like raise a family in Mexico, a family of four or five, seven, and just not own a car. And, you know, the the amount of like, you wouldn't even need to go to the store really because there's so many people driving by your house selling things, you know, blowing whistles and being like mangoes or bread or whatever, that you could just live on things that people sell to your house door to door in Mexico.
yeah, it's kind of easy to live in certain parts of Latin America. Like it's just like an easier way of life. And I was just thinking about Mexico City. Like I could walk to the grocery store and the gym and the bar uh, to go out. Like, and if not, like I might take an Uber like to go out on the weekend, and that would be like I don't know, a $2 Uber. Uh, so certain things there are just make things really easy for people to to
Get
blend into the
adapted.
lifestyle like right away. So so yeah, that's nice, and it's it's seriously lacking in the U.S. Like you do have cities like Savannah uh, or
Hmm.
Boston, where I mean I used to live in Boston too. I used to walk all over the place. I walked a lot in Boston, but because you have all the neighborhoods that are like right next to each other, right?
Hmm. Yep, Savannah and
But
Charleston are good examples
yeah,
too.
Savannah, Charleston, I've been to those cities as well. But m- most of the U.S., especially cities that are not on the coast, I would say, like Dallas, like forget it. Like you need a car, and and I'd say for Mexico specifically, it's easy for a, a, someone in the West, in North America, in Canada, uh, the US, also like UK, to go somewhere in Mexico and cut your cost of living at least 20%, because your housing is going to be cheaper, and you're not going to have a car, so you're not going to have any of those associated costs. Plus, cost of food is lower, and those are your big three, right? Those are your big three expenses. So I would say at a minimum, you're going to save at least 20%, and that's a big lifestyle upgrade for people.
Hmm.
You know, now it's different. I'm If you are, I don't know, making a few hundred thousand a year, or you have higher net worth, it's going to be a little bit different situation. But I know that a lot of the guys doing like the nomad thing are like in their 20s, maybe not making as much. And what I would recommend to them, if they were interested in that kind of lifestyle, like I would much rather be somewhere in Latin America or Southeast Asia and cut my cost of living 20 to 30% while I'm building my business than be in like somewhere in the US where I'm spending more money and I'm just not living as well. Like it just doesn't really make any sense unless you uh, need to be there for some reason, like family, which is perfectly fine. But if you have the option, then you can you can take advantage of the geo arbitrage that a lot of people are doing, because it does make a lot of sense.
Right, and you're so well set up for it because I know you're aware of the foreign earned income exclusion. Have you ever
Yeah.
considered basically living outside the states and taking advantage of that?
Yeah, the my issue is family. So I need to be where I am now to be closer to them. Uh, but if I wasn't in that situation, then I would definitely take advantage of it.
Dude, if I were you, I would just go live in like Guaymas. You know what I mean? Like just right there in Sonora. Anything happens, you can always pop back, like quick drive back to Phoenix. What's maybe it's like 6 hours, 8 hours. You could do that.
Yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be nice. It's not possible right now,
No, it's
but
cool. I mean, and then like you're also aware of the idea of getting, temporary or permanent residency in Mexico. You're aware of a lot of the flag theory concepts. Have you done anything in that direction to sort of internationalize yourself?
not yet. I do have a list of those things that I'm interested in. I've been looking into Five Flags for at least a few years now. I forget when I first heard about it, but some of those things are on my list to do, like citizenship by descent, and maybe uh, citizenship by real estate investment, or maybe some offshore banks. Although I'm not
Mhm.
I'm not entirely convinced that offshore banking is even as useful now with crypto, because you would do all this work to set up uh, a bank in another country, but crypto's kind of doesn't have a country, right? So I don't know if there's that much of an advantage there. But I am really into the whole Five Flags philosophy, and whether you do all five or whether you do like two or three of the flags, I think that's something that a lot of people should consider, because I really dislike the idea of working for one company, or having all my money in one country, and those types of things. I think you want to have some global diversification to have more options, but also to protect your downside in case things go to shit.
Definitely. And I'm guessing that Demori, I'm not sure if that's just like a stage name or if it's your real name, but it's, I imagine, an Italian last name, which is one of the top citizenship by descent countries. I don't know if you've looked into the Italian program.
Yeah, I hear they're very difficult. I hear that dealing with Italy is like an enormous pain in the ass. So I don't know if that's. something I want to deal with. But I think they've got a digital nomad visa they're working on. I think I heard about that recently. So maybe Italy's not such a bad option.
You know that they do have a couple things, but I'll tell you that the citizenship by descent through Italy, it definitely takes a couple of years while you're waiting and for them to complete things on their end, the processing. But it's very achievable, and people do get a passport at the end of it. And all the Facebook groups dedicated to this, there's tons and tons of success stories of people getting their Italian passport. This particular podcast host may or may not have received his citizenship by descent after I want to say it was about 4 years, probably 2 years to gather the documents, and then 2 years of waiting after the documents got submitted to the Italian consulate. But it came through, and it's became it's an important part of a good strategy is to have probably like some kind of base in Europe.
See, that is a long time. I don't I don't know if I have the patience for that because you could do citizenship by investment in where like Antigua, and that's like a couple months,
For sure,
right?
and
So
they're not
there are
mutually
some that are much
exclusive. Like you
faster,
should get every one that you can.
right?
Yes, the Italian one does take a while, but I mean, it's not. It's like you're just collecting a bunch of birth certificates and stuff. It's not a big deal, and then you're just waiting. So you don't have to spend time on the ground in Italy. You're just sort of going on with your life, and then this thing's like happening in the background, and that's sort of like one of the more advanced strategies is to have like a multiple processes happening at once. And so what I mean by that, and this is something I've been thinking more and more about because I previously had more of like a one track mind where previously I was like, okay, 5 years, XYZ country, and then another five. But really you can do like many processes concurrently as long as they have low physical presence requirements. And I know that you've kind of seen some of that content on Twitter before.
Yeah, and you make some good points. So I think like what we're talking about though is really part of a much bigger plan, right? The whole Plan B idea of having five flags. I've even heard of seven flags, right?
Hmm.
People have different breakdowns of it, but uh, there are certain lower hanging fruit um, that might be a lot easier. Like if you're in Panama, you can open up a foreign bank account, and that's not too much of a pain in the butt to do. Uh, and there's going to be more advanced stuff or more expensive stuff, right? Like citizenship by real estate investment. If you're doing that
Hmm.
in some countries, you're looking at $500,000 or more, which a lot of people don't have. So uh, yeah, there are. I mean, for guys that don't know too much about this stuff, I guess that's who I'm talking to right now. It's certain things are easier to do than others. Certain things are more expensive to do than others, but you don't have to do everything, and you can take your time with a lot of these things. And you need to think about like how does that fit into your overall plan? Because the point is not to just collect passports. It's like, well, what does this other passport do for me, right? Like, what do I get out of it? Or what does having an offshore bank account in Georgia do for me versus not having it, right? So that's a big rabbit hole people can go down. I've been reading up on this stuff and talking to people about this stuff for years now. So it's going to be a multi-year journey, most likely. It's
Hmm.
probably going to cost some money, but to me, this is like you can't really like become um, part of the digital nomad or even expat lifestyle without thinking about these things, because I think they do.
It occurs to everyone.
Yeah, it occurs to people, it's like, wait a minute, so I can make money from anywhere in the world as long as I have an internet connection, huh? Right? And wait a minute, I can get paid in USD, but I can spend money in pesos or baht or whatever other local currency.
Hmm.
Huh, right? And it's like light bulb after light bulb. So that also happened to me, and I was like, wait a minute, there is actually a better way of doing some of these things, and most people don't even know this is possible. So yeah, you start going down that rabbit hole, and it's, I mean, it's huge. It can be a make a dramatic difference to your life if you can get some of these uh, pieces of the puzzle uh, to where they need to be.
Yeah, and I'd actually appreciate your your thoughts on maybe what we could do at My Latin Life, kind of what your opinion would be, because um, I, 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 there's no doubt that there's a huge need in the market for more nomad capitalist type services that can help people do this and make it more accessible to people. Um, I think like one of the other best examples right now is rebase.co, which is Peter Level, like the Nomad List guy, Peter Level's company that's sort of creating an immigration as a service company. And they're trying to use software to sort of like um, automate parts of the immigration process such that it's as streamlined as possible for someone to apply to become a Portuguese resident. And Rebase is focusing on Portugal right now, but um, like you could easily write code to help. You could easily create like a software platform and write code to help people apply for citizenship by descent, to Italy or Ireland or whatever it is. You could create a platform to help people kind of do stuff. But then, beyond just like a software platform is like a little bit more advanced, or even something more basic like just a course. And then it's kind of like, how do you frame the course? Should it be like a general sort of like internationalize yourself type of course? Should I really focus on a specific country, or do like more sort of holistic plan? Like, should I do sort of like a hyper specific service and be like, you know, we can get you Paraguay residency, like for sure, that's what we do, 3K, bing bam boom? Or should it be more like comprehensive international, like, hey, take a look at your whole vibe, let's see where we can sort of like diversify you? So there's kind of like different approaches, and I go back and forth on what would be the most helpful and attractive to people.
Yeah, well, you can do all of the above. That's like with nomads and expats, I think the main things to think about are, where is the friction right now? Like, what are people complaining about? What if, like Ty Lopez said this, which is, what if people say, like, I wish blank, right? I wish I could uh, get citizenship in Paraguay more easily. I wish I could, I don't know, have cell phone service anywhere I go. Uh, so, like, you got to look at what are those problems that are just like begging to be solved right now,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of them, right? Because like the whole nomad expat scene is a whole industry of things, right? It's not just citizenship. It's also travel, travel gear, how to be productive as you're traveling, um, then all the five flag stuff, then
Retirees, homeschooling.
oh yeah, that's that. Oh yeah, that's, I don't know how big it is, but to me, that is kind of like where the puck is going, because you have nomads who are like in their 20s who are now getting older, and they're in their 30s or they're in their 40s like I am, and they're starting to have families. So they like that lifestyle, but they don't know how to do it with two kids, right? So that's like a sub segment of like the nomad expat
Hmm.
population,
Hmm.
and those people have their challenges. Like, uh, do they? I think a lot of them are going to be into homeschooling. Well, where do they go for that, right? So Um, those are all opportunities. I would start small. I would start with a specific niche and then go from there, because like you're not gonna out nomad or like outdo Nomad Capitalist. Um, they've been around for,
Like
I
10
don't know,
years.
10 years maybe,
Yeah.
and he focuses on 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs. So if you're not doing at least 1 million a year, he won't even work with you. So that is his niche. But you don't have to go after the same niche that he's in. There's plenty of other people that will pay for all kinds of help, like accounting, right? You mentioned FEIE. People want help with that stuff too.
That's another idea I had, was to make sort of like an expat software as a service that would do basically maybe one of the niches would be focusing on helping Americans who are going to file the FEIE and do like digital nomad tax returns, and help them do that,
Yeah,
because most accountants can't do that.
true, true. But I also know a couple accountants that, or more than a couple, who specialize in taxes for digital nomads. So there is that need, and it's probably going to grow as more people do it.
Hmm.
Uh, you also mentioned focusing on a specific country like Paraguay. I think that's an option as well. So, I mean, all of these are good ideas, right? But it comes down to execution. It's like, what is that actually going to look like? What is that business going to look like? Um, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
So
I think it's
these are
more
all good
like there's
ideas.
different. Yeah, I mean, it could be a course or a service. So I have a question for you, Dennis, because I mean, you do your own, you help people. I think, if I understand correctly, you help them craft their own high ticket sales programs, and you coach other people who are going to be doing high ticket stuff, right?
That is part of what I do. So I guess you could break down my business into three categories. So I work with clients one on one, and I help those clients with their email marketing. And usually that includes uh, their copywriting and uh, their email marketing strategy and their offers. Right, those offers might be low to high ticket, so I
Hmm.
might consult with them on building a high ticket offer, or uh, improving a high ticket offer so more people want to buy it. So there's like, that's one piece. The other piece is training. So training other freelance email copywriters to do what I do with clients. So that's another part of my business.
Hmm.
So, and I have my students, um, and they're in my paid community. Although I'll talk about that stuff in social media and with my email list as well. And then the third part of it's like the education component, which are uh, ebooks, courses, workshops, like all those types of training products. So that's how I see my business in those three different categories. Um, and I do all three. So I don't exclusively do one. I do doing all three of those things all the time. So my business is kind of diversified that way.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, for anyone, I think the way to get started is to start small. You got to pick some type of niche, and there's different ways to niche down. You can niche down a specific market, right? Like people who are older digital nomads with families or expats, and they want to continue that lifestyle. That's target. Could also be a specific pain point, right? Pain point could be how to get citizenship in Paraguay, right? As easily as possible.
Hmm.
Um, so, but there's I mean a million different things you could do. I think it's thinking about what your audience would most want to buy from you,
For
and that
sure.
comes down
There's
to
just a
research.
It's true. It's true, and just some conviction as well. So let me put one question to you. So, in your professional opinion, when you look at Nomad Capitalist and you look at sort of their portfolio of products, so they have the Nomad Capitalist book, which is like a hardcover book, and then they have the basically like the full scale service that's like 20 grand, roughly, I don't know, 15, 20, 30K, and he gives you like a full comprehensive plan, and he's like he's like, boom, Montenegro, Armenia, Colombia, and gives you like this whole crazy like worldwide plan. And it's everything. But he's not really chopping out any individual services. He has no other courses. There's no like move to Malaysia guide or something like that. It's just like the $20 book or the $20,000 service for seven figure entrepreneurs. I'm just curious why you think he chose um to segment his business that way.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know, but there are like his business model is mainly done for you, right? So that's his high ticket. Um, I mean, actually, it's not just the stuff you mentioned, right? He has his book, so that would be his low ticket offer. He also has his done for you service, which I think is like yeah, around that 30K ballpark for an action plan, and then you have to
Mm-hmm.
spend the money to actually get it done,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it costs money for lawyers and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
He also does his events, which are
Yep.
not cheap, which are a
Yep.
couple $1,000 at least. So that is what seems to, I'm guessing, make sense for his audience and for what he wants to do. But you can look also at uh, Sovereign Man, where he tends to talk more about investment opportunities. So he'll talk about gold, he'll talk about agriculture in Chile,
Mm-hmm.
um, and
And the
uh,
business model is different. His is more about a subscription model,
yeah, that's more like the Agora
newsletter.
subscription model. Yeah, so you're getting access to information, uh, and then you have Caleb Jones with his Sovereign CEO, who is targeting the younger guys, like guys who are in their 20s, getting them to 70K or 85K a year in annual income. So he's not targeting expats. He's not targeting guys with families. He's not targeting multimillionaires.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different target. And all of those are good ways to approach this whole category.
Yeah,
So
there's no there's no right answer, that's for
yeah,
sure.
there's no right answer. It comes down to the execution. They're all those are all good ideas. They're all those are three viable ways to do it that are working for all those guys. Uh, and I mean, it's wide open. Like I don't think anyone's really like the the market is too big for anyone to corner. That's why you have guys uh, targeting people in different ways, right? From the multimillionaires down to like the nomads who are uh, maybe just starting their first online business.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
short answer, it
what I'm
depends.
realizing is I think the digital nomads kind of want to do it all themselves. They're happy to kind of like in my experience as a young guy, and I said I have the time to and the competence to read everything that's out there and kind of do it all myself, and then I'll just pay the lawyer or the fixer $1,000 to like do the one thing I can't do, you know what I mean, like as lawyer stuff. But other than that, like I didn't need my handheld. And so I think that's sort of where digital nomads are at. And then there's a huge market of people that are like retirees that want to go to Costa Rica or Panama or Mexico, things like that. And I think those people maybe have more to spend. And then I don't know, there's definitely all different groups of people, but I think the bottom line is this isn't going away. More and more people are going to become location independent. I think there's going to be more migration at a global scale than ever before. I think people have been sort of like artificially locked in their nation states for like the past 100, 200 years. It was never really like that before that. And things are going to become much more fluid once again now.
Yeah, and you got to ask yourself, like, does my ideal client have more time than money or more money than time? Like a guy who's making 5 million a year with his U.S. based business, like this guy does not want to go through. an 8-hour course, right? He's like,
Hmm.
dude, I'll just pay you. Just pay you to get this done for me as fast as possible. I don't care if it costs more, right?
True.
Somebody who's not in a financial position might go through a course. It just depends. But like someone like Nomad Capitalist, he's offering like a boutique concierge service for high net worth individuals. So totally different. It makes sense he doesn't have any courses. He's just got a book that's going to introduce you to his business and his approach. He's also got tons of blog articles and YouTube videos if you want to go through that stuff.
Hmm.
But after that, like it's a very high ticket type service. So um, I'm not even sure if it would make sense for him to have a type of course for the types of clients he's working with. So it's got to make sense for your customers, right?
Thanks, man. That's helpful. I want to switch gears a little bit and just talk a little bit more about what you have going on. Um, So I wanted to ask you, I mean, what would your advice be to people out there that haven't built a strong personal brand yet? They know that they need to buy their URL. They know they need to start a Twitter. They need to buy ryansmith.com and get their at Ryan Smith Twitter and start building an email list and maybe start a YouTube channel and do all these personal brand things. Like what do you advise? Like that's something that's not for everyone, but at the same time everyone kind of should have a personal brand or authority, at least in a certain area, some sort of like public authority in the thing that they do. How do you think about that, and how did you make the leap into being more out there and trying to build your authority, and then what do you tell other people?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that everyone needs it. Like if you are a electrician in Kansas, like do you really need a personal brand on Twitter? Probably not. But for people that are interested in this type of lifestyle, then a personal brand is only going to be an advantage, right? It's not going to hurt you. It's probably going to be a big plus, but none of this stuff happens overnight. Like I've been doing this stuff since early 2017, uh, so it's been over 5 years now, and
Hmm.
it's just really plugging away day after day, doing something that is going uh, to build your audience. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, and having a couple uh, simple uh, platforms you can use to funnel people through so that they can become customers. So it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to be on 6 different platforms. You could very simply have a Twitter account and an email list, and that's it. And then with your emails, you're going to talk about the types of problems that your subscribers are dealing with and how you can help them. That's like the easiest way you can do things, and it is effective. You don't have to make it really complicated. So uh, the main thing though is to just get started, because the
Hmm.
time's going to pass, and if you are interested in this type of lifestyle where you have more flexibility and you're okay with having the responsibility, because it's not you doing nothing. Like you still are going to have the responsibility of doing these things. No one else is going to do them unless you hire people, and now that's a different conversation. Like I work alone. I have a VA who helps me once in a while, but for the most part I work alone. So uh, in order to make this happen though, it's been years of working with clients and talking to people and promoting myself and my business and my offers. So uh, it does take time, but also it does get easier the longer you do it.
For
So that's
sure.
why I'm not working uh, 70 hours a week like some people. Um, Also because I don't need to for my business model. But yeah, the longer you do it, the easier it's going to get. And as long as you have those main things, like uh, a way to get in front of people, a way to promote your services or your products, then as long as you have those basic things, then you can do pretty well.
Hmm. And so, Dennis, I'm gonna admit something to you here because I need your help once again, and that is that I still don't understand email marketing. Um, I've listened to lots of podcasts from Niche Pursuits and those guys, micro business guys talking about build your email list, have a flow, sort of like a welcome sequence, 5 emails, this and that. Um, but as a consumer of email, I personally just don't really subscribe to any newsletters or things like that unless it's like by accident. And when I do get that stuff, I don't really like I don't fall into the flow, I guess, quote unquote. Or I don't know, I don't read long form emails. And so for me it's like like for my Latin life we have an email list. And I almost just don't know I know what to do with it, but I don't know what to do with it. So I haven't even really been harnessing it like the past 6 months.
Yeah, you need to forget about how you consume email and just think about how other people do. Because a lot of people read emails and a lot of people buy through emails. So uh, the main thing is just I would start with a very simple promotional calendar. And it could be a weekly email, it could be 3 emails a week, but something that you could stick with and then uh, use that to talk about the problems that your audience is dealing with and how you can help them.
Hmm.
And that's really uh, at its core. That's what you're doing. So yeah, you can do these things with automations and stuff, and that those are good things to be able to do, but it's really not that important in the beginning.
Hmm.
And you don't want to get lost in the weeds. Like the main thing is you got to stay in front of people because they're going to forget about you, right? Out of sight, out of mind. And
Hmm.
email is still one of the best ways to do that. So,
No, I get that it gets in front of people. So let me ask you about frequency then, because I've heard different numbers thrown around, like you said, 1 week or 3 times a week. If you're consistently emailing someone 3 times a week for a year, like how are they not unsubscribing? That's what I don't get.
different reasons. Maybe they just archive all the emails. Uh, maybe maybe they do like what you're sending. Like I've had people that have been reading my emails for a couple of years now.
Hmm.
So uh, it just depends if people are reading them, right? If they're opening and reading them, like is it a topic that they're interested in, right? Because if you're big into golf and you're getting a newsletter about golf, like you want to hear about golf all the time. You want to hear about like the latest gear. You want to hear about how to hit the ball farther.
Hmm.
Um, you want to hear about uh, little little tips and tricks you can use to beat your friends, and you don't get sick about that stuff.
Hmm.
So you got to find like your market crack. Like, what are the things they always want to hear about? Like, I was just watching some videos about backpacking, and backpackers are all about gear, right? What's the best gear? What's the best ultralight gear? So I'm not carrying a lot of weight.
Hmm.
What's the best foods to bring? Um, like, and people just never get sick of those topics. Like
Do you
for
think
me,
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for me, like I can always talk about how to write better emails, how to make more sales with emails, how to get clients if I'm talking to freelancers. Like I could be how to get clients. I can be talking about that 10 years from now.
Hmm.
And
Makes
people
sense.
are still going to open those emails.
Do you think that the recipients of email marketing skew older than maybe like a traditional audience? Do you think that are we reaching like teens or 20 somethings with email marketing, or does it sort of reach sort of maybe the older segment of someone's given audience?
Uh, I've heard it skews a little bit older, but I don't think that's really that big a deal. Like young people, they still need email, like for their Apple ID or to
Hmm.
like get a confirmation email for things. So they're still using email. Uh, Maybe not as much as like say Gen X, but uh, you still need email to do a lot of things. Like to just log into a website, you need an email address.
Hmm. So yeah, no, this is helpful. And I am being a bit just like devil's advocate. Obviously, I know email marketing is super important, but I'm just sort of trying to think like what, uh, for my Latin life, what like the voice would sound like, what the value would be. Um, I think like our buddy Jake Nomada, he basically just like emails you his Substack article, and I don't know if like the whole article is in the email or like part of it, and then it links to Substack, something like that. But yeah, so he just emails out like whatever, like top 5 cities, that type of stuff.
Yeah, he's got a good newsletter and a good website, but that is also written for a certain type of reader in mind, right? The, it's not for girls, right? It's for guys who uh, are traveling, want to party, have
Right, but
adventures, and
more
all
than
those types
just
of
the
things.
content, because I know you don't want to like talk about girl stuff, but more than just the content, it's almost like for him the writing is the final product. Like at least as of right now, it's not funneling to like a high ticket course or product or anything like that. So he's basically just trying to like get you to pay for more writing, I guess. So I guess that's a little bit of a different example,
Oh no, well, I don't know what his strategy is. I'd have to ask him. I think he was just kind of doing it for fun, like a creative outlet. I don't know if
basically.
he has any plan beyond that to monetize it because he's making money online other ways. So I don't know. You'd have to ask him. But my point was that he does have uh, a certain type of reader that his articles are aimed towards. So that is good to keep in mind as you're writing emails. Is like who is my reader and what do they want to hear from me? So, and there's no secret to that. Is just you just got to ask your audience, hey, what do you guys want to hear about? What would you be interested in reading about? And people will tell you, and that will is not a perfect data or a perfect survey, but at least it's going to get you started.
Hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I know I could kind of ask you about different aspects of email marketing for a while. Maybe I should have squeaked more of that in at the beginning of the episode because you are definitely the subject matter expert. So I'll have to lean on you a little bit in the future as I get that going.
Yeah, man, you just got to get started. Get into that consistent rhythm. Uh, don't send like 10 emails this month and one next month. A lot of people do that. So you just got to get into some kind of consistent uh, production or output, and and make sure it's something that you can maintain. Uh, and that's how you start building consistency with that.
Hmm. And then one last question, I guess. So sort of as a email marketer and someone that really relies on a lot of the written word for the content, like how do you think about like written word versus video versus podcasting and sort of the different mediums?
I think you should do whatever works best for you. Certain people are better in certain modalities. Like some people are very good at public speaking, where podcasts might make more sense, and some people are better writers. So you got to pick a modality that works for you, um, and also that you enjoy doing, right? Like some people have done really well with podcasts because they're talkers. Some people do not want to do that. They'd rather just open up Google Docs and write. So uh, I don't necessarily think one is better than another for your business. Although I think it is there is an argument to be made that uh, you will build a better connection with your audience if they can consume your content in different formats. Uh, so if I can watch your videos and listen to your podcasts and read your emails and social media posts, that gives me um, a better, more well-rounded impression of your business than if I was just like reading your blog posts. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, not that you have to do all those things, but I can see how uh, it can work to your advantage if you have like that kind of ecosystem built out.
Hmm.
So
You
I
know,
have, for example, like my YouTube is visual and audio, and then my social media is text.
and
So
by the
you,
way, Dennis, are you excited to hit 1,000 subs on the YouTube? You're 25 subs away right now, 975.
oh, I didn't even know. That's pretty cool. I've been slacking on those videos because I've been trying to think about what direction I want to take the content. But yeah, that's a cool milestone.
Yeah, there's a couple things like when you hit 1,000 that are good. Obviously, you can start monetization if you have the hourly the view time, the watch time as well. But that's good. You'll get there probably within a month or so.
Yeah, and what's cool is I haven't posted anything in a few months, but it's still growing.
Hmm.
And that's the only social media platform where I see that happening. Like if you don't post on Twitter every day, you're not going to grow.
Hmm.
Same thing with Instagram, but YouTube it just keeps growing. So I'm super bullish on YouTube as a platform. I think it's actually the best platform right now, uh, and long term, that's where I would put my focus. But that's me.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, yeah, we can definitely start wrapping up, man, because we did hit the 1 hour mark, and I know your time is valuable. Is there any sort of last questions or topics that you wanted to go over before we get into an outro?
Uh, I don't know. Depends what your audience wants to hear. Um, like if they're interested in the freelance stuff or doing what I do or learning more about that, they can look me up on my website, and um, you'll see links to all my socials and my newsletter and some paid products and all that stuff.
Hmm. Tell us about the email kit community, the private community.
Yeah. So one of my offers is my uh, private paid community, which is called Email Kit. It's specifically for people interested in learning email marketing. So right now it's mostly freelance email marketers, kind of mixed. Some of them work with coaches and course creators. Some of them work with e-commerce brands. But yeah, there's tons of content and training there, multiple courses, multiple workshops, multiple interviews with industry experts, training videos, articles, monthly Q&A calls for the whole group. Um, People also get a private uh, one-on-one call with me when they join. So uh, I've built it to be as comprehensive as possible so that when someone joins, they have everything they need to get clients and make money and grow their business. Uh, and that's kind of like a bit of a brain dump for me too, where I just put everything I know in there. So I do share lots of stuff on social media, but I try to put as much as possible inside Email Kit.
Yeah, this seems really comprehensive. A lot of stuff in here.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like I said, there's multiple courses in there, and uh, I cover pretty much every topic you'd want to hear about. So it's all in there if people want to take advantage of that.
Sweet. And I'm kind of looking at the copy on the Email Kit website and looking at your clients that you've worked with. And what's cool is it seems to span kind of a lot of different industries online, right? There's sort of like what sounds like survival type businesses. There's a Scientology or clientology. I thought that said Scientology. Clientology. That's a good one. But yeah, like what's it called? Like working out and stuff, athletic stuff, like international macroeconomic type stuff. So you've had you don't stick to one industry. You help lots of different people with their email marketing.
Yeah, I tend to work with coaches and course creators, but at the same time, like marketing is marketing,
Hmm.
and email is email. Like those things don't change too much. So my clients usually sell some type of coaching or course. Um, so um, the content is going to be a bit different, but I understand that business model, and those clients will usually fall into that bucket of coaching and info products. So that, yeah, that tends to be who I work with, but it's been a few years now, so you end up working with clients in different industries, and um, at this point, I've worked with probably I don't know 15 or so different industries.
Hmm. And so do you help people grow their email list as well, or just focusing on extracting as much valuable value as possible from the list as is?
Yeah, I focus mainly on monetization. So I don't really get involved with list growth. I can give some pointers, but that's not my thing. When I work with clients, they already have an established list, so I'm not the list growth guy. Um, I'm a better fit for clients that have that list and are looking for ways to make more money with it, and retain clients. So that's where I tend to focus.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. One or two random questions here. The Church of Clientology, which I was tripping over my words there. Ryan Booth is the Canadian guy who was in the Ukraine, right?
Yeah, he runs that business with his partner Ben. They were, I think it was about, they were clients about a year ago. So I help them with some of their email stuff, for one of their, I think one of the programs. But yeah, he's been doing this stuff we've been talking about, running his own online business and living abroad. And he was in Ukraine for a while, but he left because of the situation there right now. So I don't know where he is exactly, but he's also a good guy to follow.
Yeah, he's a cool
His
guy.
partner Ben
I think
too.
he knows the OG Vance pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay, and then one more random question. What is Agora affiliates with like Casey Research and stuff? I don't know if this is the same thing, but Jake had me look into this group called Agora that was sort of like a very, if I remember correctly, it was sort of like a private email list about maybe like investing in Colombia and stuff like that. And I never really cracked what it was, but I remember being like, huh, this is something I need to come back to.
Well, I don't know about Colombia, but there's a company called Agora Financial out of Baltimore, and they're a big financial publisher, and a lot of copywriters work with them. So they also have uh, what they call affiliates or divisions. So there's like the main Agora Financial company, but there are other companies that are like within that network, like some that I've listed on that page you're looking at, like Legacy Research. So I work with some of those companies, and
And is it like a
they
really expensive email list to be on, that kind of thing? Like an
well,
expensive newsletter community?
they have a ton of free newsletters, and then they will sell uh, paid newsletters that are um, at various price points. Some of them are more expensive.
And I think something was like, and they were building like private communities, like they were like building like subdivisions in Colombia or Panama or something. And it was like, if you're on this email list, you might get early access to like buy into our new community and buy like a little house or something. I don't
I
know.
I don't know. I don't know. They're all
Okay.
about finance and investments, but um, maybe I don't know about that stuff.
Okay, sorry. Sometimes I just gotta satisfy my curiosity here. Um, no, but that's awesome, man. So it sounds like a lot of your business and connections have come through Twitter, though. You've been in the Twitter sphere for a while.
Yeah, I've been on there for like 10 years, but uh, I also spent a lot of time on Facebook. Facebook's great for business contacts.
Hmm.
I've met a lot of people through Facebook. I know some people on Twitter hate Facebook, and people on Facebook hate Twitter, but both are good platforms. There's a lot of successful business owners and a lot of potential clients on both platforms. So yeah, I'm active on both. Not so much on Facebook lately, but I still spend probably majority of my time on both of those platforms.
Okay, awesome, man. Yeah, it was really great today to have the opportunity to finally speak with you. You've been supporting My Latin Life for a while. We've been supporting each other on Twitter and hope to continue doing that in the future. And it was great to learn a little bit more about what you're working on.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you inviting me. So likewise, great to talk.
Absolutely. This is my first pod in a while, so well, shaking off the rust, but it was good to I definitely felt like very comfortable speaking with you. I know you've had other podcasts in the past and it showed. You did a great job.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again, and we'll I'll see you on Twitter, I guess.
See you on Twitter. Sounds good.